There was some good news out of the elections yesterday. Oregon, Alaska, and Washington, D.C. all legalized marijuana for recreational use. However, some of the dispensaries that will operate out of those states and the District of Columbia are unlikely to turn a profit under the way the IRS has taxed them or will tax them. So under the current tax code, there's something known as 280E. And 280E indicates that if something is considered illegal federally, like marijuana, well, they still have to pay taxes to the IRS, but they have to pay taxes at a much higher rate. And also, they don't get the same deductions that regular businesses get. So let me give you a few examples. Under this tax code, the federal government stands to make more money from the sale of marijuana than those legally selling it. And that could be enough to shut down many shops. Now, if you want to kind of date back to when this law began and why it was something that politicians were in favor of, back in 1982, Congress amended the U.S. tax code to include 280E, which says businesses selling a Schedule I or Schedule II drug like marijuana, heroin, methamphetamine, or cocaine cannot deduct all of their regular business expenses. The rule means that the cost of the product, like the soil and fertilizer used to grow plants, are deductible, which is amazing, but the cost of selling, like advertising, rent, utilities, even salaries for employees, are not deductible. And they also end up paying a much higher tax rate. In fact, one accountant who has clients that are dealing with this issue right now says the following: a lot of times, instead of paying a tax rate that should be 30 to 40%, they're paying rates between 80 or 90%. I even have a client right now that is paying more than 100% effective tax rate. So look, this is disastrous because it doesn't matter if you've legalized marijuana on a state level. If it's considered illegal federally, this is just one of the many ways that the federal government will find a way to shut you down.
No, but I know Obama's going to work on fixing this because he used to smoke marijuana and he wouldn't, and he said he wasn't going to interfere with the states.
Right.
Okay, so now look, let's break down if you're confused about the tax situation. So if you're got a business and it costs $90 to run the business. Let's keep the math simple, right? Mm-hmm. And it costs $90 because you got to hire Bob and Steve to run the shop. You got to pay for the lights, the rent, etc. And you make $100 in revenue, and then well, you got a $10 profit. Now, if they're going to tax you on that $10 profit, it makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you should do. And I like that they're going to tax marijuana. I think it makes it more legitimate, and you get good revenues for the state, right? But if they say you cannot deduct the salaries of Steve and Bob or all the other things that Anna mentioned, well, then they're not taxing you on the profits, they're taxing you mainly on the revenue. Mm-hmm. And so then if they charge you a certain percentage tax on that, it might even be more than the entire actual profit that you made. Well, so then you can't run the business. That's a way of just running you out of business.
It's a very clever way that the federal government continues to keep marijuana illegal, right? Mm-hmm. Keeps shutting it down. And, you know, an argument can be made like, hey, well, if Congress cares about states' rights, right, why wouldn't they do something to amend the tax code so this doesn't actually impact those who are selling marijuana? Yes, the Schedule I drug, which is ridiculous, right? But if you know, you're going to respect the states' rights on this issue, as Obama has said, then why don't you exempt these particular dispensaries and these particular businesses? And of course, no one from Congress has responded. No one from the Obama administration has responded. I think it's just a little loophole in a roundabout way to make sure you keep the war on drugs going because, again, the prohibition on marijuana makes a lot of people really wealthy.
Look, the law is insane in the first place, but I know why they did it. They wanted, like, if you're a real gangster, and this is a way to prosecute you if they don't have anything else on you, right? Yeah. Say, oh, well, technically you didn't pay all your gangster employees, or you couldn't deduct them, you owe us this amount of taxes. Remember, they got Al Capone on taxes, mm-hmm. right? They didn't get him on anything else, they got him on taxes, right? So, but it's insane because you're writing a law about what you can and cannot deduct in an illegal business that you shouldn't be running in the first place.
Exactly.
So, like, how could you comply? If you tried to comply, they would arrest you immediately.
Right. And
so it's by definition you can't comply.
And whether or not marijuana is legal for recreational use or medicinal use in a state doesn't even really matter, right? So one of the greatest things about making it legal is you can regulate it, right? But if you, on a federal level, shut this down, then it continues the black market sale of these drugs. So why would anyone have any incentive to open up a dispensary knowing that they're not going to turn a profit, and at the end of everything, they might actually have to pay the IRS money? They might be in debt.